Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I want to give you some more updates about the war taking place in Ukraine. Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky, gave a defiant speech. He was actually in his office for the first time in quite a while, and he says he's not hiding and he's not afraid of anyone. That was a direct quote. He also vowed to beat back the Russians and to rebuild Ukraine. And a U.S. Pentagon spokesperson said that the Russian troops, quote, haven't made any noteworthy progress in the last few days. So this bombardment is missile strikes, long-range artillery into city centers that they aren't in yet, at least not on the ground in any significant number. That's not necessarily a good thing, though, because this is going to lead to indiscriminate deaths, right? Rather than fighting directly with Ukrainian troops, they're just launching bombs at random, which is much more likely to kill civilians. It's also being reported that Russia continued their attacks on humanitarian corridors, and the corridor that they were hitting was also being used to evacuate civilians from the city of Mariupol. And new estimates are saying that 2 million people now have already fled Ukraine. This is in less than 2 weeks, guys, and the majority of them are going to Poland. Now, of those 2 million, it's mostly women and children, which is pretty important because there's a Newsweek article that was just published, and it was saying that Ukraine's foreign minister alleges that Russian soldiers are raping Ukrainian women. And this was also confirmed by a resident in the city of Kherson named Svetlana Zorina. In an interview with CNN, Zorina said that she had heard about a 17-year-old girl who she knew who was raped and then killed by a Russian soldier. Now, the article noted that these allegations haven't been independently verified yet, but this is what happens. As they point out, this is common in war. I mean, any chance they get, right? These sick fucks take these positions of power so that they can do these things with total impunity. They obviously can't get laid without holding a gun to a woman's head. They're weak, they're pathetic. So, they use force against someone who's physically weaker than they are. So I'll keep you updated on things like that, obviously, as the war continues. I also want to share that the corporate backlash has continued, and Russia's economy is probably forever going to be changed because of Putin's actions, because a lot of these things just aren't going to go back to quote unquote normal. So Shell Oil Company announced that they're going to be closing all of their Russian service stations and that they're going to halt the purchase of oil from Russia. And they're just one of the many players who now have said, no, we're not going to do business with Russia anymore in regard to oil. In addition, McDonald's announced that they're going to be temporarily shuttering all 850 of their fast food locations in Russia. They vowed, though, to continue paying their 62,000 Russian employees. But this is going to cut into their corporate earnings big time because according to their own filings, 9% of their annual revenue comes from Russia. Almost 10% of their total annual revenue. Their Russian locations, they said, account for approximately $2 billion annually to the corporation. So that's pretty huge. The EU also announced that they plan to completely phase out Russian oil, gas, and coal imports by 2030. They're not banning everything outright, but they believe that by the end of this year, they're going to be able to reduce Russian gas demands by 2/3. So this is huge because the EU imports approximately 40% of their gas and 25% of their oil from Russia. Now, meanwhile, here in the US, Biden was kind of, put in a corner. He was kind of pressured because, as I mentioned yesterday, Democrats and Republicans came together and they were bringing up a bill to vote on banning Russian oil here in the US. Well, so Biden was kind of backed into a corner on that. So now he has officially confirmed that the US is banning Russian oil imports. And he vowed to do whatever it takes to help Americans because it's inevitable. I mean, our gas prices are already obscene right now, and they're going to go up. Now, here's the thing. We know they literally have the power to print money, right? They've done it for a number of reasons. They've bailed out Wall Street criminals, they've bailed out corporate criminals, they do it over and over again. So they need to use their powers now to bail out struggling Americans who need to get to and from work. Companies give out gas cards. Why can't the US do the same thing? Why can't the US government send out gas cards to American residents every month? And if they want, if they want to be their same selfish jackass selves as usual, and they want to means test it, go work with insurance companies. Go work with auto insurance companies to determine who's driving the most miles and send those people more. Send them more money for gas every month than others, if that's what needs to happen. And then put pressure on companies to allow people to continue working from home. If it's possible, allow people to continue working from home as they did during COVID. That will help a lot too. There are things that can and should be done to ease the burden on Americans while we rip this bandage off, as I said, and end our dependence on Russia and other countries, other oil-producing countries, like Saudi, which commits atrocities against human beings. It has to happen for our own national security. Anyway, there's some positive news coming out from internal Russian opposition forces. Putin opposition leader Alexei Navalny, you guys have probably heard of him. He has somehow released the results of a poll that was conducted by his anti-Kremlin organization. But it showed that Russian citizens are starting to kind of wake up to the truth about this invasion of Ukraine. When they asked Russians if Russia was the aggressor in this war, the number of respondents who answered yes has almost doubled. So from February 25th and March 3rd, the number has almost doubled. It was previously 29% who said yes. That has increased now to 53%. So news is getting through. Putin can try to hide things, but it's getting through. They also asked if Russia was the peacemaker in this situation, and that number has, of course, decreased. That was 25%, and now it's down to only 12% over the past few days. But still, Russia's propaganda machine and their elimination of any unbiased news is still pretty effective. There was an article that was published in Insider news outlet, and they were talking to some Ukrainian residents, and these people are finding it difficult to even convince their relatives who live in Russia. They're trying to tell them, we are being attacked. We are not the aggressors. Russia is not helping us. They are attacking us. They are killing our people. They are shelling residential neighborhoods. They're even showing photos. They're sending photos and videos to their relatives in Russia. And their not Russian, but their Russian resident family members are saying, nope, don't believe it. Fake news. So for some of these people, they're losing everything. They've lost their homes, they've lost all of their possessions, they've lost some family members who were killed because of this war. And now they're losing other family members who live in Russia because they've been so brainwashed by Putin's propaganda. I mean, we don't know what that's like here in America, do we? To have relatives that have been so thoroughly brainwashed by state-run news, quote unquote news channels, that they refuse to think critically, use common sense even, or do any research. Honestly, I think Americans are actually even more ignorant because, with very few exceptions, no one's hiding the truth here in America, except for a few instances of social media censorship. We have access to all points of view, all beliefs. All people have to do in America is search it out, have an open mind, look for the answers. Over there, they are completely shut off from reality, almost entirely. I mean, it's not as bad as North Korea, but it's close. Anyway, on a related side note, I do read some right-wing outlets, news outlets, and I find it amusing and so typical that so many people on the right, especially moron lawmakers like old Marge down in Georgia, they love communists like Putin, right? They're all for Putin and this war, and yeah, take down Ukraine, because why? I don't know. What have they done? But then they whine and bitch about the so-called communists like us on the left here in the US. They can't make up their mind, it seems. They can't make up their minds about whether or not they like communists. They just don't know. Some communists are okay if they're in Russia, but communists here, so-called communists here, are very bad. They must be expelled or exterminated. And they're perfectly okay with Putin's censorship of anything and everything in Russia. That censorship's totally cool with them. But they're constantly complaining about so-called censorship here in the US. So anyway, guys, as things transpire, I will let you know. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.